commentary box. I'm Alex Jakes. Alongside me, brilliant to welcome to the commentary box, Billy Munger. How are you, Billy?
Very, very good. I mean, it's the British Grand Prix weekend, Alex. I'm always in high spirits, like most of the fans that we've got out. And we've got a fair few of them, it's fair to say, this weekend.
Yeah, we have. Look at that. That would be the attendance for most races on a Sunday, but Friday at Silverstone is very special as well. And you're looking at Lando Norris and the fans in the Lando Norris grandstand. I mean, it is, you were out there in front of it earlier on, Billy. Great atmosphere down there.
Honestly, I couldn't believe it. It was literally yellow everywhere I looked, and the fans were absolutely loving it. They were cheering Lando and Oscar, actually, every time they came through Stowe Corner, which is where the Lando stands are. I mean, it's an incredible turnout, and he is a popular driver, and he commands an audience that just respect him and want the best for him.
Earlier on, it was Lewis Hamilton fastest, ahead of Lando Norris, Oscar Piastri, Charles Leclerc and George Russell. In the Drivers' Championship, Oscar Piastri, his advantage eaten into by Lando Norris, who won the last Grand Prix in Austria. 15 points, his advantage heading in to this weekend. Max Verstappen, so much talk of his future. Look who's behind him by a few points in the World Championship. George Russell in fourth. Charles Leclerc continuing to score more than Lewis Hamilton. And the top 10, Antonelli, Albon, Ocon and Hulkenberg is the order as you look down into the McLaren garage. Billy, you were trackside earlier on. What struck you about what you saw from the side of the racetrack?
I think particularly how gusty it was out there earlier on. I think that was worth noting. I mean, I could really feel it stood on the side of the track. I mean, it is the nature of Silverstone, because it's so flat, it does encourage those winds to really get hold of these cars, and particularly with the downforce levels you have in Formula One, that can really disrupt the airflow and really cause the drivers some challenges. And I think we saw quite a lot of that with the incidents and the spins that we saw in FP1. So I'll be interested to see if that continues, I guess. Yeah,
very, very gusty. It's been affecting things in the Junior Championships as well. Isaac Hadjar has a new livery on the car, and he had an excellent performance earlier on in FP1. So hello everyone, we have arrived at practice 2. This is the second of 3 practice hours the teams and drivers get before qualifying to set the grid for the British Grand Prix. We are so looking forward to bringing you the speed of these modern cars. And David Coulthard is trackside at the racetrack where he won 2 times in his Formula One career, with a view of some epic corners.
Yes, indeed. To me, this is the best sequence of corners anywhere in the world. The Beckett's corner, you enter the first part absolutely flat out at 190 miles an hour. You have to flick down a couple of gears in the middle. And then what you've got behind me here, which looks some distance away, is the final turn in Beckett's. So you can just see in the distance where the DRS opens as you go out onto the hangar straight. It's windy. It is windy here. That is, it played its part this morning with the cars out on track. It's definitely going to play its part in this session as well. But we're teed up nicely to start to see and get a feeling for the form of which cars are quick and which teams are struggling.
Always good to have a 2-time British Grand Prix winner watching trackside, and that's what we've got with David Coulthard across this session. He always insists on Maggots and Beckett's. You wanted Maggots and Beckett's, and you were denied, Billy Munger.
Yeah, you've got to save the best for David Coulthard, haven't you? Especially at the British Grand Prix. So, like he said there, it is, for me, the best sequence of corners that we have across the whole entire calendar. And it's a real challenge for the drivers. So high speed, so committed. You get the chance to watch there, you just love every minute of it.
Helps if I switch the microphone on. We don't have our cars out on the circuit at the moment, but we do have a green light. Few outlaps being completed. There you go. There's the queue. Everyone heading out there. Hulkenberg, Behrman, Ocon, Colapinto, and now further back in the queue, Stroll, Hadjar and Charles Leclerc. You're looking at Yuki Tsunoda, who is restored to the running. Arvid Lindblad earlier on. Absolutely excellent. Half a second away from Max Verstappen as he got up to speed with his first FP1, then had to qualify in Formula 2. Yuki Tsunoda is back in the car for the second session. So we will bring you all of the track action as we have the outlaps at the moment, including the man who was fastest earlier on. And we can even welcome you to the commentary box. Billy Munger, Jolyon Palmer. There's plenty to look forward to in this session.
I mean, it's going to be a great session. I think this is where we're going to see some real representative lap times and really the drivers pushing the limits. I mean, I guess they already went over the limits, some of them in FP1, but I think it's only going to get even tastier, I guess, from now on.
Jolyon, what are you looking forward to in this second hour of running?
I think seeing if the Ferrari pace is actually there, because it surprised me in FP1. They're obviously trying to fine-tune their car with the upgrades they bought last week, but Lewis was really settled from the first lap. It's Silverstone, it shouldn't come as a surprise, but he's been a little bit away so far this year, so can he keep on it in this session?
It is a glorious commentary box. Thank you so much for joining us for this one. We're going to show you all of the track action. Here's the look at the graphic, though, for the car performance. And you can see the McLaren setting the way. They have a mammoth lead in the Constructors' Championship, nearly double the points of the second-place team. And then you've got Mercedes, Red Bull, Ferrari all scrapping over second place. Then a ferocious battle to be best of the rest and claim that fifth place in the Constructors' Championship. That is the aim. Great shot of Silverstone Circuit as we look down to the pit wall. You can see Andrea Stella and CEO in your picture, Zach Brown. They will be hoping that the McLarens can continue to run as effectively as they did earlier on when they were second and third. Lando Norris just ahead of the man that we were on board with, and now we go on board with Lando Norris. You can see that second place confirmed with the graphic at the bottom of your picture, trying to win the British Grand Prix for the first time in his career.
Wind looks similar to P1, still gusty.
So gusty out there was the call from Billy Munger, who experienced it earlier on, and now we can see Lando Norris attacking this racetrack. They've got the throwback livery for the chrome. It's the chrome that Lewis Hamilton won this Grand Prix by over a minute in 2008.
I mean, that race, Alex, that was one of my first proper viewings of a British Grand Prix, and I absolutely loved it. And it was just a performance that we still talk about all these years later. It was absolutely incredible.
Where were you watching from?
I was in the grandstands. That was my first ever year at the British Grand Prix.
Which corner?
Which corner? I was along the straight before Cops, so the old pit straight.
Start finish. Loads of drama that day.
Yeah, that's the thing about Silverstone. When you've had so many races through the years, every single corner has an iconic moment, and that was not the entrance into Cops Corner that Lando Norris wanted as he began FP2.
Wind looks similar to P1, still gusty.
Was there for the DC victories, and always on the hangar straight down here, and where there was loads of action as well into what was the best overtaking place. It's now not the best overtaking place because it's such a short braking zone, but it's still possible there with the DRS. And yeah, always great memories of classic races at the British Grand Prix. 2008, though, that was quite the performance from Hamilton, who's straight back to the top of the times.
Yeah, the performance from Hamilton was great. The campsite, the state of the campsite with the rain we had, not so amazing, if I'm honest.
Yeah, definitely a year to get a hotel.
You win some, you lose some. Great Grand Prix, horrible experience.
Well, that's the thing that you sometimes have, isn't it? You'll see an amazing race, but you might have to pay for it on the way in or on the way out. 2002, sitting at Beckett's corner. No one forgets their first memory of the British Grand Prix. Listen in. Lando saw it coming and there was room in the end, but that's a distraction at best, Billy.
Yeah, that's really not where you want a car positioned, on the apex there of Cops Corner, because it's so committed, it's so high speed. You see the guys running off track limits without anyone to distract them, so that's definitely not what they want, and Liam Lawson had that too.
Oh my God, man.
Someone was saying how Australian Oscar Piastri sounded when he was not allowed to have his final run in qualifying because of the yellow flags caused by Pierre Gasly spinning last week. I think that was maximum Kiwi as well from Liam Lawson on the radio. So frustrated, and we're only in the opening few minutes of the session. Drivers are desperate to get a feel of what's going on there. Formula One ultra competitive at the moment. Field barely split by a second at the last race. Slightly longer racetrack, this one, running to 3.6 miles, 5.8 kilometers, but they were still finding a way to trip over each other earlier on. Here's a driver who's hoping he has a better feel with improvements made to the car in the last couple of hours. It was a really, really difficult session for Max Verstappen earlier on, certainly at the slower corners on the circuit. 3 and 4, Village and the Loop. The car struggling to turn there. He is being compared to Lewis Hamilton at the moment, who has the early fastest time heading down to Stoke Corner.
Fastest first sector for Max, so that is where Village and the Loop are. The low-speed corners, but also some power-sensitive areas through Abbey and Farm, the first couple of corners.
The entrance into Copse Corner that Lando
What the?
as he began FP2.
Oh my God, man.
And he doesn't quite go ahead of the man that was getting out of his way at the final corner.
Yeah, Lewis Hamilton fastest, then it is Max Verstappen, Charles Leclerc, Lando Norris, Kimi Antonelli currently in the pits. And Liam Lawson, top 10 completed by Russell, Hadjar, Stroll and Alex Albon. To the championship leader, Oscar Piastri, had some great days around this circuit in the past. One here in the Euro Cup, one here in Formula 3, he's won here in Formula 2 as well, and this year he's trying to win in Formula 1 on the way to his maiden championship. Problem is, his teammates got the same goal.
It's a pretty good track record around here, though. I feel like this is one of those circuits where if you gel with it, you're absolutely flying. I did used to enjoy this one, even if my my track record doesn't back it up, actually, Alex. But
you say one thing, honestly. You say one thing in an intro that your co-commentator doesn't like.
But the flow around here is really nice, and you know you can abuse the curves quite a lot in the high speed. The cars get quicker as you go through the ranks, and you find yourself in Formula 1. And the high speed now is just brutal how quick you're going through Copse, Maggotts and Beckett's. But the rhythm and the lines remain the same, just everything comes that little bit quicker. And Oscar, a couple of years ago, probably had his breakout weekend, didn't he? Running up towards the podium, should have had it then. It shows how he feels about driving here. Was it a good one for you, Billy?
Yeah, I love this circuit. I mean, the British Grand Prix was always good. Had a couple of front row starts and podiums around here in the junior categories as well, but I do agree with sort of what you said there, Jolene, about being a circuit that you either gel with or you don't. I think if you don't find a rhythm around this circuit, it can be really hard to find that later in the weekend. I think it's important to hit the ground running. I think that's why the likes of a Lewis Hamilton will be very happy with where he's at right now, even if the car is different to the McLarens.
It's looking like a good first sector for Oscar Piastri. He is fighting up against the fastest time set by Lewis Hamilton. Looking good commitment-wise through Copse Corner. Big story of FP1 earlier on, 2 high-speed spins, one for Pierre Gasly, one for Gabriel Bortoleto. Both cars incredibly lucky that it wasn't a full rebuild for the teams. You see the weight distribution through those awesome corners. Maggotts and then Beckett's changing speed at the direction at ludicrous speed. DRS open. It closes as he goes through what used to be a far slower corner, leans on the curb. Track limits has been still affecting things in the junior championships. These cars have so much grip. They're not struggling as much in Formula 1. 18th and final corner is Club Corner, and Oscar Piastri has the fastest time on the board. Let's get another look trackside with David Coulthard.
Yeah, guys, I've got to tell you, I've been standing here astounded at the change of direction that we see. Look at this, as we see the car coming through. The Sauber even looks spectacular as you get that beautiful head-on shot there as you come through the first part of Beckett's. And I want more of that, less of me. Go and have a look around again. If you just turn the camera around, I think Lewis Hamilton's about to come and join us in the Ferrari. There he is. He's just gone through, actually. He's so quick. He's passed through. But let's just hold that shot, because here we have the McLaren of Lando Norris. And it's absolutely breathtaking visually, the speeds. You know, even though Jolien and I have driven Grand Prix cars around this racetrack, it's only when you come out and see them, to see the body language at such high speed with the downforce. It's, for me, I've got to tell you guys, I'm tingling all over with excitement and looking at the times. I'm sure Hadjar is as well, as Hamilton actually has just pipped him again. So, you know, this is what exactly we're going to see here. We're going to see the times constantly being nipped away at as the drivers build the confidence. Wind is, of course, still playing a big part out on track, but really spectacular to be here at Beckett's.
Thank you, DC. Watching on for us at those fantastic corners, and You have to say everyone's looking effective through that part of the racetrack.
Yeah, and I've got to agree with what DC was saying there about how impressive these cars are to watch out on the circuit. Having the opportunity in FP1 to go out and look at the cars through Stowe Corner. I was trying to film some of them behind the scenes just to show the speed. I couldn't even keep up with it with my phone camera, honestly. They're through there so quick, nearly 150 mile an hour, the cornering speed through Stowe. It's incredible.
So much high speed around this racetrack. You've got Kimi Antonelli in the left-hand side of your picture, full frame. We're riding with George Russell, winner of the Canadian Grand Prix earlier this season. How he would love a statement victory. Any correction at that part of the racetrack, you're carrying so much speed. They're lucky that it wasn't a full rebuild for the team.
This is the most on this year I've had in high speed in a while.
Awesome.
Probably the most on this year I've had ever.
As well, picking a couple of downshifts and still fighting the car.
Let's see how he closes out the lap. Through the Vale chicane, into Club Corner we go. 18th and final, past curb cam and up to third position. Crucially, behind Isaac Hadjar. So the top 10 is Hamilton, Hadjar, Russell, Piastri, Charles Leclerc, and Kimi Antonelli, Lando Norris, and the world champion, Max Verstappen. It's practice 2 for the British Grand Prix. It's already in progress, and we are watching Yuki Tsunoda trying to get up to speed. Very unusual comments from Yuki in the press conference yesterday. He was saying that it was his fault in Austria. He's lacking confidence in the car, and he's trying to turn the page on what was a difficult weekend. This session vital for his confidence across the course of the British Grand Prix. Let's send it downstairs to the pit lane where we can check in for the first time with Lee McKenzie.
Thanks very much, Alex. It's a bit of an unusual FP1. Quite often we have been undercover, under umbrellas, but all the fans here are slapping on the factor 50 because it is scorching out here today. Scorching, 25 degrees is scorching in Silverstone terms. The track is over 40 degrees. We don't expect it to be like this all weekend. It is going to get cooler, which is great news if you are George Russell, Kimi Antonelli and a Mercedes. But at the moment, dry conditions, hot conditions. It will be interesting to see how FP2 matches up when it comes to long run pace against the race strategy. We're just moving out the way because an Alpine is just about to come in behind us.
Thank you, Lee. Down there at a circuit where the weather played such a large part last year. It was freezing here last year at Silverstone, and that brought the Mercedes to the front row. It's as simple as that. That car effective in certain windows. If it's chilly out there, it finds its way to the front. We saw that in Las Vegas, and George Russell was the winner of the Grand Prix. We saw it at Silverstone, and it was Lewis Hamilton ending that long winless streak with extraordinary scenes at the end of the Grand Prix.
Yeah, I mean, Mercedes aren't actually too far away with their pace in the early stages. Okay, they've not been quite with the McLarens and Ferraris, but we know how much the weather affects their car and the balance and getting those tyres in the right working window. So I wonder how they'll actually be feeling on the pit wall right now. Will they know the weather will bring them back into it or not?
See the front tyres in the high speed. It's going to sprung.
What boxes like that?
Max Verstappen speaking to the pit wall. We're going to speak to the pit wall now. And team principal at Williams, James Vowles, is joining us all weekend long. James, you've got your cars out there at the moment. How do you reflect on how you went in FP1?
Yeah, big session. As I said, we were trying something different. We had some experimentation to do. So we didn't actually focus much on the soft tyre. That tyre in the end actually was a one-lap tyre. So as you saw with Alex, reasonable. With Carlos, just a little bit of step to make, but he's picked it up now. So, okay, not great.
Were you happy with your conclusions out of it, though? Could you learn from the running? Obviously, Carlos missed a little bit of track time out there.
Just bear with me, because Carlos has spun. No, he's okay. Yes, happy with the learning that we had out of it. It was a very valuable run that will pay dividends this weekend.
James, any early indications what's gone on here? Obviously, we're just seeing these images like you right now, but is there anything that potentially caused it? We've been talking about the wind and the gusts of wind we've seen around here.
Yeah, I mean, I'll look...
Undercover, under umbrellas, but all the fans here are slapping on the factor 50 because it is scorching out here.
See the front tyres in the high speed. It's going to sprung.
What boxes like that?
Appreciate it. The man on the pit wall for us all weekend and turning commentator because of a spin for one of his drivers. And Carlos Sainz was so close to the Ferrari of Lewis Hamilton as the car went round on him on the exit of Luffield.
Yeah, spinning up the road there, and you had Hamilton thinking about getting out of the way for Carlos, looking in the mirrors and thinking, oh, he's coming right for me, but it's the back of the car that's attacking me. The
guy who replaced him at Ferrari as well, I mean, he must have been having a bit of a funny feeling when he saw Carlos Sainz in the Williams coming at him like that.
And then this moment, noted for rejoining unsafely, Sainz will argue he's got to move the car from that position on the racetrack. You can't be broadside, and Hulkenberg had to take avoiding action.
Yeah, low speed, the yellow flags were out, and he was kind of on the racing line, so he's moved forward off the racing line. No, that's not a big deal there, I don't think.
So back we come. Our camera's down there. Carlos Sainz with a different design for his team's home weekend. Driver who was unable to start the last race with the issues with the brakes. Jolien, you've had a DNS around here. It's just unbelievably frustrating.
Leave him alone.
It's not deliberate. I'm being factual.
No, I can relate to Carlos's frustration at the moment. A DNS at the Austrian Grand Prix, not quite a DNS at the Spanish Grand Prix for Carlos.
Yeah,
trust me, that hurts that little bit more.
Could you check if it was a wind gust or if it was dirtier?
We're thinking 28 kph gust, as you on the cup, 28 kph gust.
That makes sense.
It's hard to differentiate between them because there was the Ferrari just ahead of him, so you are probably not getting the clean airflow, and then you're heading the gust, and then you're finding the curb, and obviously the feedback there is that probably more the gust than the traffic.
You can look at the wind direction as well, going through Luffield. It is completely a crosswind into that corner, which in Formula One cars is the last thing you want, sorry. It really unsettles the balance. So I think all of that combination of factors led to that incident. Luckily, no lasting damage from the looks of it.
It is an exposed racetrack if you get gusty winds. The nature of the former airfield, there were 3 different sites they were assessing which one they were going to pick for motor racing. In the end, the fact that they were already having unofficial races here meant that they lent towards Silverstone, which is why they picked this place. It used to alternate Brands Hatch for many years, but from 1987 this has been the home of the British Grand Prix, and CEO Stefano Domenicali saying that it's got all the facets to stay on the calendar. Ferrari of Lewis Hamilton as the car went round on him.
Could you check if it was a wind gust or if it was dirtier?
We're thinking 28 kph gust, as you on the cup, 28 kph gust.
That makes sense.
The guy who replaced him at Ferrari.
The first second.
I mean, in more recent terms, I think this man who we're watching now, his Grand Prix victory when he only had effectively 3 wheels on his wagon, that for me, I mean, you don't get that anywhere else but the British Grand Prix, do you?
No, we have gone a step softer with the tyres. Standout recent British Grand Prix for you, Joe?
Last year. I mean, what a race that was. 3 different teams in contention at various moments, and out of it all, Lewis Hamilton gets a win for Mercedes to make it the 9th Grand Prix win at the same venue. Incredible race.
Let's go down to the pit lane again. Lee has made her way to Williams.
Thanks, Alex. Yeah, I just came down to see if there was any damage or what was going on with Carlos's car. Nothing really to concern himself. He said, you heard him say there on team radio, was it a gust of wind or what was it? I just saw earlier on in FP1, we heard him on the team when the team asked him from feedback, and he said back to the team, no, that's what you need to give me. I'm not quite sure how much of a happy ship it is at the moment. Carlos says he's very excited to have his first British Grand Prix with the iconic Williams team. But there's still a bit of gelling to be done. Alex on the other side of the garage seems much more confident, much happier, has scored points here for the last couple of years. But a little bit of work to do from Carlos and this side of the garage, just so the two are heading in the same direction together. Easier said than done.
It is indeed. From the pit lane to the racetrack, Lewis Hamilton is the fastest car out there right now. But let's go back to these epic corners with DC to see how it's looking trackside.
Well, I've moved from one epic section of corners to a slightly more sedate area of the racetrack. I'm just here looking over at turn 4, which is the final sort of slow part of that opening section that takes you through the kink out onto the Wellington Straight. And of course, in true television style, there's no cars passing right now for me to point out just what this corner shows us. Now, let me do a little bit preamble. It's one of the lowest speed corners on the racetrack, and it really gets an opportunity for us to see cars without the downforce. You're going to have to take my word for that right now as we wait for someone to make their way through the epic turn 1, the long turn 2 into the sort of first braking, and there we go. We have an outlap here for George Russell, and quite frankly, he's not going to be going that much faster when he's on a hot lap, because it is that, you know, as the downforce comes off the race car, it loses a whole shed load of downforce. The downforce is square of the speed, so the faster you can go, the more load you get onto the axles, and that really pushes the race car into the ground. So it appears that there's no more cars coming around right now, so you're going to have to take my word for what I was going to describe to you. I'll chuck it back up to the commentary box.
DC, we'll try and come to you so you can show us, although I did still enjoy his commentary of what was basically an empty racetrack.
That was fantastic, wasn't it? I mean, he described it as well as he could, considering there were no cars for us to watch.
He's got a future in broadcasting, that man.
Yeah, science with DC. It's a nice segment. We don't need the cars. We'll just have the equations in there, and we'll believe it.
So a couple of outlaps in progress. We've got 36 minutes to go in the session. So far in both sessions today, Ferrari have looked good. Recently updated floor on that car, and it is effective so far on the medium tyres. But we are switching to the soft in a few moments, and we will get attacking laps around this storied racetrack, originally on the calendar for the opening Grand Prix of the World Championship back in 1950. It is 3.6 miles, 18 turns, and so much for the drivers to enjoy. This is one of the classics, not just in terms of the history, but also the challenge as well. Got the flying laps coming your way in a few moments. We're going to cover everything we can in a bit. So here we go with George Russell finally going past. DC can enjoy it even if he's not currently talking to you at home. Russell on pole here last year, straight fight with Lewis Hamilton. And it seemed to be like it was going to be a McLaren weekend, and the temperature disappeared on qualifying Saturday. And Russell hoping for a similar story. Fastest first sector from anyone so far. You'd expect that going from the medium to the soft.
Yeah, it's a strong start to lap from George there, just over a tenth up on the previous best first sector. It'd be interesting to see how the tyres hold on, especially when we've got these hotter temperatures in FP2. We do expect the temperatures to drop going into qualifying tomorrow and Sunday. So again, some of the learning that will be going on right now with the different tyre compounds, it might change throughout the weekend.
Yeah, you can see how slow they were taking it. The two Mercedes on the outlap trying to bring in this C4 soft tyre. Russell's through two sectors cleanly, but again, not finding heaps on the soft tyre. Antonelli was a tenth quicker than George in the first sector. You can see Kimi on the left side blasting out of Copse up towards the high speed now, and Maggotts and Beckett's breath taken away as you turn in there, right, left, and right again at the end of that. Russell coming through the final couple of corners, and we'll get a first look at a front runner on softs.
And George Russell goes fastest, but by less than 7/100ths of a second. Kimi Antonelli had a really important day in his motor racing career here last year. Maiden Formula 2 win. It was in the wet, not the dry, but he was disappearing from the field, just building the gap. Time and time again, catches the oversteer on the outside of the corner, and he's ahead of his teammate George Russell by a tenth of a second.
Yeah, and he lost to his teammate in the last sector just under a tenth of a second, and that slide would not help. But I think that just highlights to you the last couple of corners, Club Vale, after you've gone through that high-speed middle part of the lap, the tyres are really screaming. They're hanging on by a thread there, and getting the traction out of that final sequence of corners is so tricky.
That's why they're doing slow outlaps to try and keep the tyres in for the whole duration of a flying lap. Antonelli was a man that spent most of the start of the season building up in the high speed, trying to get used to how quickly a Formula 1 car can go around the higher speed when you've got the downforce on it. It seems he's learnt it, because his high speed there was extremely impressive, quicker than Russell.
There's been quite a lot of drivers that have been quite open this season. I think Antonelli's been one of them, because he said, even dating back to Monza before he even became a Formula One driver, making that mistake, how he eased back in those high-speed corners and left a bit of margin there, and it's taken time for him to get back up to speed in that sort of sequence of corners.
Yeah, the confidence of that moment. The weekend he was announced as a Formula One driver, sent out there early on in FP1 on soft tyres. Racetrack wasn't rubbered in. He was attacking, knowing he was going to be announced as a Formula One driver the next day. All of his nightmares coming true, found the barriers. And as you say, Billy, he's been open and honest with the fact that that knocked his confidence. But encouraging lap for him on the soft tyre, if you consider he's only out-qualified George Russell on one occasion in the Grand Prix format so far. In the sprint format, he's been the head of the field in Miami earlier this year. This is the traditional weekend with the Formula One format, including 3 full practice hours. We have had a sprint around here in the past in the iconic 2021 season. Charles Leclerc is on the medium so far. He's about to build up for a push lap on the softs. Practice 2 in progress on board with Lewis Hamilton, driver who's looked good in FP1. He's looked good on the medium tyre in FP2. Let's see how the Ferraris go on the softest tyre available this weekend.
So this is crunch time for the day then for the Ferraris. They've looked so good on the other compounds so far, but now we're a little bit of fuel out. Can they find the time and keep it there on a qualifying simulation? Charles Leclerc using all the road coming out of the loop. Will flick open the DRS and have a nice long stretch of the legs towards a braking zone for Brooklands as Hamilton behind him now starts to open his lap.
Feels very gusty in general. Guys being tossed around a lot.
Yeah, copy that.
So Charles Leclerc moving on. Fastest first sector, and that's encouraging stuff for him. Let's see how Hamilton stacks up. Hamilton is going to cut the beam, and he's slightly back on his teammate's effort.
Yeah, very similar, Charles Leclerc, to Antonelli's first sector. I mean, he's purple, but only by the matter of a few hundredths of a second there.
Let's send it to DC, who's finally got cars in front of him on the racetrack.
Yes, indeed, and we've got a McLaren going rather slowly. Lando Norris on an outlap. Oscar is on a push lap there, it looks to me, and you can see physically the body language of the car going over the front tyre, it looks like, as he comes through that really slow corner. The 2 Ferraris, when they went through here, I've got to say, looked on rails. So based on my observations there, I wouldn't be surprised if they're one of the quickest cars through.
Yeah, the confidence of that moment. The weekend he was announced as a Formula One driver, sent out there early on in FP1.
Feels very gusty in general. Guys being tossed around a lot.
Yeah, copy that.
Through this section now, all either on outlaps or build laps, as you see Charles Leclerc there having done his run. But it's really interesting for me to see the contrast and just how quickly they can get the cars to change direction through what is not the most challenging part of the racetrack, as you know, Jolyon, but it's a huge amount of time in a section like this. So you can not just focus only on the fast corners. You've got to make sure you have a car that is not lazy when you've got the downforce coming off, which can be the case sometimes when you get so stiff axle to try and support the downforce. Quite often you can be out of balance. But yeah, wind blows, people still explore, the lap times will continue to fall.
It's a kind of strange paradox when you think a circuit like Silverstone, be the hero, go and nail it flat out through Copse and thread it through Maggotts and Beckett. And then you're in front of DC there, and you're just having a small oversteer at the apex of the loop, that left-hander, turn 4, and you're losing all your lap time in innocuous ways.
Guys, there's something wrong with the front left. There's really something wrong.
You mean in
we need to solve
13?
that by... Yeah, in general, we need to solve that by tomorrow. There's so much lap time in it. Front left is like killing my sleep.
Said the man who's currently faster, Charles Leclerc.
Yeah, he's always disgruntled when he's quick, isn't he, at the moment, Charles? I thought when we had a look on board with Piastri that he had a load of understeer, in the high speed. Couldn't quite get the car turned in properly for Copse. And then towards the end of the lap as well, through the exit of Beckett's, was really washing out and almost ran too wide on the exit.
Landed on a push lap, same corner where His teammate was struggling with understeer.
From the outside there, it looked a lot neater. His line wasn't washing out towards that exit curve, which Oscar found. So sweeping through now, a little moment of oversteer through the first part of Beckett's. Cheer from the crowd as he comes through, and it looked cleaner for Norris, and it is on the time. So this is a man that's probably got that left front hanging on, whereas it looked like, obviously Charles sounds like it wasn't, and it looked like it was going away for Oscar as well.
Yeah, and through Stowe, that's the last corner there, high-speed corner on the circuit. So now it's threading the eye of the needle through the last couple of corners, Club and Vale, getting that traction out of the final corner and across the line. And
based on my observations there, I wouldn't be...
Guys, there's something wrong with the front left. There's really something wrong.
You mean in
we need
turn
to solve
13?
that by... Yeah, in general, we need to solve that by tomorrow. There's so much lap time in it. Front left is like killing my speed.
34th Russell and 5th Hamilton did not complete his push lap on the softs.
Yeah, he bailed out of it in the middle sector. Was a 10th down on Charles after the first sector, so it wasn't the cleanest already. Here's the last of the front runners then to put in a time. Max has been in the garage a long time. He's done the fewest laps of anyone in this session, but now he's going to put one in on the softs. Finding personal best. He's a little bit adrift of Norris in the first sector. He's quite a long way adrift of Lando in the middle sector as well, so he's not about to challenge the top spot.
8th position for Max Verstappen, very nearly 0.8 of a second behind the benchmark set a few moments ago by Lando Norris. That is a stark gap for the Red Bull Racing team. Max Verstappen is a two-time winner around this circuit at the British Grand Prix in 2023 and the 70th anniversary Grand Prix in 2020, the only time this racetrack has ever hosted anything other than the British Grand Prix.
So that's the end of our front-running quali sims. You've still got the back 5 drivers actually all out on out laps at the moment. Gasly's not on a soft yet, so he's still waiting as Alpine try and cure that car. But what Norris has picked up where he left off then in Austria, banging in the sectors, finding the time, and putting a bit of a gap between himself and the rest, and it just didn't look tidy for Leclerc, for Piastri, and Hamilton had to bail out. I didn't see exactly what it was for Lewis that cost him. So I thought it was going to be a bigger bang than it was actually over the apex curve.
I was about to say, the car rode that inside curve there very well, but the car in general, looking at Max Verstappen, what we saw earlier there, through Stowe, it looked a bit lazy on the front end. It looked like he was having a bit of understeer, so I would imagine we'll be hearing from Max on his radio very soon.
Well, he complained about that on his first run on the medium, said that just the front's nowhere in the high speed, and it's strange. Normally it's about trying to dial out the front end on the high speed and try and dial it in the low speed, but around here with the gusty winds, it looks like everyone's now struggling with the front pushing, particularly the second half of the lap. Especially
Max Verstappen as well, Jolene, because we know what his driving style's like. We know that he demands a really sharp, pointy, aggressive front end to his car. So if he's suffering with understeer, then I can only imagine how much Yuki Tsunoda is dealing with right now.
It's a frustrating way to lose lap time, just waiting for the car simply to turn, and there's not a lot you can do about it.
Well, Lewis Hamilton went again on that tyre and improved up to 2nd position, but it's still Lando Norris in his McLaren that's top of the pile with 25 minutes to go in second practice here at Silverstone. Esteban Ocon pushing on, Lance Stroll pushing on, and Ocon trying to continue the form. He's got 5-point scoring finishes so far this season in the team. But you know, if you're joining Haas, you have to rack those up. They have to convert their chances when they get there, and he's good enough for 12th position as Stroll now comes to the final 2 corners of the racetrack. Let's see him over the line, Canadian driver, and Stroll cuts the beam, and the time stacks up to be the 6th fastest for the team that are based all of half a kilometre away from the main gates here.
Yeah, he was 4th all the way through practice in Austria, and he was out in Q1, so I'm not going to fall for that one again. Nah, we'll wait and see it tomorrow for Lance. Is encouraging, obviously, for Aston Martin, who are still trying to bring upgrades and find a bit of performance in this year's car before the big overhaul for next year. Really encouraging for Ferrari, though. Again, I mean, Lando's up the road. 0.3 is quite a big margin in less than 90 seconds. But you got Hamilton with a second fly. We heard already from James Vowles saying it's a 1-lap tyre, so if you can find something on a second lap, it shows that there should be a little more if you do it on the first push.
And Charles Leclerc's just done just that. He's just improved again on another lap on that soft tyre, down to 126.0. So closing the gap to Lando Norris. But the margin at the minute that Lando has got on top, it does suggest that he has picked up from Austria where he left off. And his qualifying margin advantage he had in Austria was remarkable. So if he's in that sort of form here in Silverstone, you hate to think what the gap could be.
Yeah, it's the confidence that he was showing across every session. Lando Norris missed FP1, but after that, jumping in the car, he was top of every single session. We were talking about the fact that he had to convert Austria because it was such a good racetrack for him in the past. And you are riding nose cam with Isaac Hadjar into the opening corners, into Village, named for Silverstone Village just down the road. This is the Loop, which I feel we could rename the Loop after one of the famous characters of
tough draw, isn't it?
British motor racing history, because all the other corners have the history. Aintree, because we used to have the British Grand Prix there. Wellington Straight, because of the Wellington Bombers that used to occupy here. Brooklands, because it's where it all began 99 years ago.
But if we're honest, Village isn't great either, is it?
So you want Village gone as well?
I mean, it's all right. There's a bit of novelty about having a corner called Village.
Should we ask the question, which name should stay then at this rate?
Well, you're definitely keeping the traditional ones, like Cops.
Although, when someone came up with the corner name Maggots, there was probably outcry at the time, and it stood the test of time, and now it's iconic.
We're going to be losing a lot of fans right here. We try and rename Maggots and Beckett.
Yeah, Village Maggots.
So Hadjar continuing on that long run pace, and did he have an issue on that lap? Because he's on the soft tyre. Pushing on again. What does our tyre page tell us?
I think he's starting a higher fuel run now, isn't he? Just continuous laps and getting into the long run pace. So that's where we're at really with the front runners. He's been through the pits. He's had his crack at the softs. He's found a bit of time. Decent day at the moment for Racing Bull. So now he'll settle into the long pace. 7 seconds away.
So Hadjar settling down for the hard graft of FP2, having shown good balance at the start of FP1 as well, when he was up in 6th position. You're watching practice 2 at the British Grand Prix. Let's get some more trackside action with David Coulthard, 2-time winner of the race.
Yeah, and I've come back to Beckett's. It's so good, I wanted more. Much as I wanted to show you the pace of the cars through turn 4, or the Loop, as you've been debating. Look at this. We're going to see Max Verstappen, the speed of the car and change of direction. It's just spectacular, even at this point in the session. And then, yeah, I've just got the Mercedes there. I think that's Kimi Antonelli, who's gone through as well. And if we just turn the camera around and see if we can pick up some other cars there. We've got Behrman in the Haas. That looks like that's more of a build lap, quite frankly. Either that or Haas have some problems. Let's spin around again. I think we've got Liam Lawson coming here in the Racing Bulls, and it looks like he might have backed out. Let's just stick with it until we see. Right, there you go. Aston looking racy. They all look spectacular through this section of the racetrack, to be quite frank. I know there's a bit of a spread in the lap times. Norris quite comfortably out at the top. But just put that in perspective. Stroll and Alonso, we've got Stroll 0.6 away, Alonso a second away. Visually on track, you can't see the difference at this sort of high speed. You know, you were talking probably only a few miles an hour difference between the very best and fastest car and one that's, quite frankly, average around this racetrack. It's more easy to see the difference in pace in those lower speed and medium speed corners. Guys, I'm just blown away. I'm going to go and take a little seat and just soak up the atmosphere of one of the best sections of racetrack anywhere in the world.
I'm so glad that DC was able to go back there.
Now he's done it twice. Where am I going tomorrow for my track hits? I thought I'd get one there, but would it be overkill? Go back to Maggots, please.
We're going to send you to the Loop. Yeah. Let's go downstairs to the pit lane with Lee.
Thanks very much, Alex. Aston Martin waiting to come in just behind me. When we talk about local teams, there is no team more local. They are based right outside the gates of Silverstone. They will be hoping that the updates that they've brought to this Grand Prix work. They've made some changes to the floor, a slight tweak to the upper bodywork. Now, that was the update, you might remember, that they brought in at Imola. But Andy Cowell, the team principal, has made it perfectly clear that this weekend is the last update of 2025. So he'll be hoping that Fernando Alonso has a smile on his face. Fernando just sitting outside the top 10 at the moment. Lance Stroll just sitting outside the top 5. But up and down this pit lane, the focus is very much on 2026. So let's hope this gives them enough for the next 12 races.
Yeah, Lee, given Fernando Alonso's history on the radio, if the performance completely falls away, they will hear about it. But everyone has to have their mind on 2026 because of the complete ripping up of the rule book we have for next year, a completely different set of technical regulations, and we'll be saying goodbye to DRS that we've had for 15 years in Formula One. That's going. There's going to be a high downforce mode and a low downforce mode. It's completely different, and understandably the teams, because that's going to be a regulation set for a while, are going to find themselves needing to get that right. Getting that right at the start, like we saw with Red Bull in the first season. By the time we got to the Belgian Grand Prix and they got their car to the weight limit, they were dominant for a couple of seasons. So getting it right on the rule crossover, absolutely vital. And that is giving hope to the likes of Aston Martin, who have slipped back in recent times, having been podium contenders a couple of years ago.
Also, if you're George Russell, obviously at the minute he hasn't got a contract for next season, but you see the track record of what Mercedes did back in 2014 with the set of regulations that came in, and he must be thinking, I really need this seat, I really need to be with Mercedes, because I think they're a team that when these new regulations come in, they normally hit the ground running. Okay, the recent regulations haven't gone their way, but it does feel like, to me, there's a sense with George that he really thinks Mercedes will be a challenger and he wants that seat desperately.
Jolene, that's the chatter in the paddock, isn't it? A lot of people think Mercedes have done their homework like they did when we had the engine regulation change into 2014. They're expected to have the best power unit for the new regulations.
It was part of the logic for Carlos Sainz going to Williams, powered by Mercedes, and they're thinking with the trajectory of that team plus the Mercedes power unit in the new regs, that's maybe not a bad place to be for Williams. Alpine also switching to Mercedes power units, so there's going to be a few of them there. But yeah, Mercedes could well be a good place to be, and it's his home. It's his home, Mercedes. It's what he's known in Formula One. Okay, with Williams, but he was always a Mercedes protege at the time, and it's a big switch up to move teams, which you'd think if Verstappen goes to Mercedes, it's going to be Russell to Red Bull, because Red Bull are going to be scratching their heads trying to find someone else to try and replace the quality of Max in the other car, and George is doing a great job this year. But shifting teams is a big undertaking. We've seen it this year with Carlos, we've seen it with Lewis as well, even his experience, struggling to find his feet at Ferrari. It's not something that you want to do, especially if you think your team might be on the way to crack the new regs.
Let's bring in Williams team principal James Vowles once again. James, we've been talking about teams balancing updating this year's car and the sea change in the regulations that's coming for 2026. You've been talking for a long time about how your team is approaching that. Just run us through what your plan is for the new regulations.
Yeah, it's probably worth saying, first of all, that this is the biggest change that I can remember in the sport. It's brand new power unit, brand new chassis, not a bolt even carries over. So it's an opportunity for us to really tear up everything that we've been doing over the last 10, 15 years and start again. So as a result of that, we, on January the 2nd, which is the earliest you could do it, have been working pretty much uniquely on the 26 project. That doesn't mean solely. We've done some work on this car. But pretty much our real primary focus is next year.
James, obviously you've mentioned multiple times about how you've been sort of allowing the team to tear out the playbook and sort of reinvent Williams as a team, how you do things. What does that kind of look like behind the scenes? Is that now all sorted and in place, and all the focus is actually on the design of the car?
No, it takes quite a while. I mean, putting some numbers to it, we're about 1,100 people now. We were 700, so that's huge growth in the space of a few years. And Formula One really is about having the right process structures, systems around it. And as you would imagine, it's not something you find on Amazon. It really is custom made for the requirement of us as a team. So it's a couple of years worth of investments. What's been happening now is highlight where we want to be, get down to foundations, make sure we really understand where we are not benchmark anymore and that we have to change, and then enact that change. So we're stage one at the moment. It's still really foundational and will be for probably another year or two.
One of the big changes you made, James, was to bring in Carlos Sainz, a race winner, to the team. What's going on with him at the moment? He seems to be having a bit of a scrappy day so far, a couple of offs, a little bit of damage earlier on, and just generally, I feel like the momentum's just stalled a little bit for Carlos getting up to speed with you guys.
It's, I mean, today really is just, you're right, a little bit scrappy, but he did have a 20 kilometres an hour gust. And when we were talking before we went through it, that was really what was causing it at the time. But the gap between him and Alex is not enormous. He lost about 10th and a half in the last sequence of corners, which pretty much makes most of it. Answering the question, he normally gets it all together by qualifying, but I do agree with you, look at the last few races, and it's on us, not on him. He's either had traffic or blocking or red flags, etc. So I think we just need clean delivery for you to see what he can do.
And how much do you think he's pushed Alex to step his own game on this year? Because we're seeing, I think, the best of Alex Albon so far.
Yeah, he's done a huge amount in that regard. Alex really, it was from Boxing Day, I remember vividly when I spoke to him. He just really switched into a different mode. And the Alex you see today is thanks to Carlos.
I love the reference to Boxing Day, James. Have the day with the family and then straight back to it. Excellent stuff. Thank you so much for your input across our broadcast today. We'll let you get back to the day job. 12 minutes to go. Yeah, we had a previous broadcast when Franz Tost said he worked on Christmas Day, so at least
running through the business plans on Christmas Day.
At least James Vowles gives his drivers Christmas Day off.
It's a relentless nature, this world of Formula One, isn't it? I mean, Christmas Day off and then Boxing Day, probably waking up, maybe feeling slightly fragile in most cases. And then James Vowles is on the phone assessing performance and talking Formula One and the business. But that's how this world works, and that's how things move on so quickly.
Snap you back into gear pretty quickly.
It would.
Oh, the boss is on the phone.
Making sure Alex Albon stays away from the mince pies, but it shows you the intention down there at Williams. And there was a reference, benchmark anymore. James Vowles absolutely determined to take Williams back to where they used to be in the early 90s, contenders at the front of the field, trying to add to their illustrious history in Formula One and all those delirious scenes with Nigel Mansell around this circuit. Max Verstappen continuing to log laps behind the wheel. Two-time winner of the British Grand Prix. All the talk of his future, but at the present he is third in the World Championship and hoping to have a chance to at least contend. I have to say, the practice sessions last year didn't look great for Red Bull on Friday. They are notoriously good at running the simulations, improving the car and taking a step forward, but it was a big gap on those soft tyres earlier on.
Well, he improved on the second lap as well. So Max and the Ferraris were all in the same camp of finding time on the second lap on the softs. Both McLarens hit it on the first lap of the softs. Norris was much cleaner than Piastri, so that's why he's got to march over the field. But it tells me there's more to come from the chasing pack, basically. It's always a strong point of Red Bull to deep dive the data on Friday and put together a more competitive car into Saturday. Half a second away is not where he wants to be, but it's still strikeable range, I think.
And just looking at the comparison between him and Yuki Tsunoda, about 0.6 of a second here in Silverstone. Last time out in Austria, I did feel a little bit for Yuki Tsunoda because he was only about 0.2 behind Max Verstappen, but obviously with the nature of the circuit in Austria, how close the margins are, that was enough from him not making it through to the later stages in qualifying. But it does feel like 0.2 is sort of, in Red Bull terms, for that second seat, a respectable margin between drivers to have.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, Billy. Max Verstappen was P6 in Q1, Yuki Tsunoda P18, and the gap just over 2.5 tenths of a second. Brutal how competitive things are in Formula One at the moment. Ollie Bearman is gearing up for his first ever British Grand Prix, currently in 19th place. Bearman's been talking in the build-up to this race about the one-lap pace is key for him. He wants to make a breakthrough, and you can understand why, because he is statistically, on average, last in the qualifiers.
That surprises me, because I feel like we've seen some strong performances from Ollie. Maybe it's been more lean towards the races itself, but I've been impressed with Ollie in his rookie season. I think obviously coming into his first British Grand Prix, there'll be a lot of pressure potentially on his shoulders. It's a lot to deal with if you're a British driver at the British Grand Prix, but luckily for him, he's got 3 superstars of the sport to also distribute that pressure between.
Yeah, I know what he's feeling, because when I turned up in Formula 1, we had Lewis Hamilton and Jenson Button at the time. It was like, hi guys, I'm here as well, but the Palmer fans were not out in force, I have to say. I think I had 1 or 2.
So Lance Stroll, another promising Friday. The challenge for him, as Julian mentioned earlier on, can he take it into qualifying? It's been a whole year since he was the lead Aston Martin on the grid for a Grand Prix. He had great form here last year ahead of Fernando Alonso. So it is a circuit that he enjoys. He was the fastest Aston in both quali and the race. 8th in qualifying, finished P7 on the ropes. He is continuing on. Everyone on their long runs. The track completely busy, apart from Pierre Gasly, who's in the pits. Gasly trying to snap a really terrible run. He hasn't scored here in the last 5 runnings of the British Grand Prix. Desperate to turn the page on that story around this famous old racetrack. Stroll across the line with another lap on the board. We're inside the final 10 minutes of the session. Into the final stages of FP2, Silverstone circuit. The second practice session for the British Grand Prix, round 12 of the Formula 1 World Championship in 2025. It has been a day where McLaren looked quick once again. That's the case nearly everywhere we go. They've only missed the podium on 1 occasion so far this year. That's when they collided in Canada. Lando Norris ripping off the front wing in the latter stages of the Grand Prix. But a really encouraging day for Ferrari. A modified car, a new floor on the car in Austria, and they're 2 and 3.
And do you want to know more good news for Ferrari? Their race pace looks pretty solid at the moment on a medium tyre, which is what they've all switched to, having started the session on the medium. There you see George Russell coming through Vale and Club at the end of the lap, and it's not a great news for not a great reading for Mercedes, who are off on 1 lap pace and also long run pace. But Ferrari look very competitive towards McLaren on their respective short runs on these mediums with fuel in. So definitely, whichever way you look at it, very encouraging for Ferrari, getting back onto terms with how to make their car quick again.
They were the team that were expected to challenge McLaren into the first half of this season, and we can see the current pace, and you've got the medium tyre usage at the moment. Charles Leclerc on a 1:31.6 on average there, McLaren's on a 31.7, Piastri on a 32.2. There are different factors in the mix with these long runs as well.
Yeah, Verstappen quick, but he went out a little bit later. He did his soft tyre running after the others, and is quick but on fewer laps. But there you see as well the pace of the Ferrari compared to the McLaren's is very competitive, and the Mercedes not looking so much. So they're going to be hoping this cools a lot for tomorrow, and the wind can gust and the rain can come in and George can put on something special, or maybe Kimi, because at the moment on a Friday running, this hasn't been a great day.
The strange feeling for George Russell, who's absolutely desperate tomorrow morning to open the curtains and see a miserable day out there.
Yeah, he definitely is. And Carlos Sainz again, see him now running wide at the same corner he spun out earlier, so potentially worried that the car was going to go around him again. Opened the steering a little bit too much there.
I think someone had already been off, hadn't they? There was a strip of gravel that he found before finding the gravel itself on the outside. So still trying to find his feet, Carlos. And it is tricky with Albon finding a new gear on Boxing Day last year and engaging the next one. And you have to do that when you've suddenly got a race-winning teammate in the team. He's come from Logan Sargent, a few races with Franco Colapinto, and you know, maybe he's taken his foot off the gas very slightly because you're in a run of races, you're not being pushed by your teammate that much, and you think, well, okay, race winners come in. We know that James Vowles did a lot of work to lure Carlos to Williams. So Albon, as the incumbent driver there, just has to be like, right, okay, well, hang on, this is still my team. I need to raise my game. And I think he has, and he's made Carlos's life pretty difficult.
We'll have to ask James, or we spoke to Carlos on Boxing Day as well, and see if...
Is it fairness? Is it fairness?
Is it?
It is an intriguing battle. Alex Albon went 3-0 up in the qualifying head-to-head. Then Carlos Sainz was the lead. Williams on the grid for the next 4 races. Came back, and then since then, Alex Albon's taken over again. So it has been a battle that's ebbed and flowed in their first year as teammates. Guess who just went past the Lando Norris grandstand?
I'm going to take a guess at Lando Norris.
That Photoshop flag. That's Glastonbury quality nonsense that we saw on the flag there for Lando.
Honestly, this place is like a festival. It's incredible, the amount of people that are just here for the event as a whole. The racing on track is fantastic, but there's so much going on around the circuit at this place. Silverstone really makes such an effort to engage all the fans that come here.
Yeah, got great concerts across the weekend as well, and it is packed out there. It is in the best way. So many brilliant corners to watch from. Every grandstand seat pointing at an iconic piece of the racetrack. So this is Brooklands Corner. We've been telling you it's named for the first venue of the British Grand Prix. That's a very long corner as well. Late apex for Brooklands. Through Luffield, which used to take you onto the old pit straight. Woodcote that's had a chicane at that part of the circuit in the past. It was a far shorter circuit. This is Lando Norris earlier on, just a lock up at turn 3.
Yeah, down into the loop and village, the corners that, you know, we're umming and ahhing about in the comms box up here. But yeah, it's just these slow corners, Alex, that can create these issues. Lock-ups into the slow corners, that can cost you so much lap time. So in qualifying and tomorrow, that's something that the drivers be trying to avoid. So they'll be playing around with the limits right now of how much brake they can trail into those slow speed corners, because they don't look as engaging to the eye, but actually there's a lot of lap time there to be found.
Well, this has been a hugely encouraging day for Lewis Hamilton, he was happy immediately with the feeling of that car in Austria when they put the new floor on, because it's not many times that you've heard the driver with the most pole positions, the most podiums, the most wins in Formula 1 be encouraged with a 4th place. But that was the case after qualifying. Couldn't get the race pace that he was looking for in the Austrian Grand Prix, but the driver knows very early on whether it's a step forward or not.
Yeah, I think Lewis is so experienced, as we see another lock up there from Yuki Tsunoda into that same section, the loop and village, the early stages of the lap. But yeah, Lewis is so experienced in the world of Formula 1. He knows when an update turns up on the car, whether it's going in the right direction or not. And actually, you know, last season and before that with Mercedes, there was all those sort of conversations where Lewis was trying to push the team in a direction with the car, the team were pushing back against Lewis, and they didn't exactly make loads of progress. So it does feel like, to me, I think Lewis, with his experience, is going to be really vital to push Ferrari in the right direction and to try and win a championship with them, even if it's not himself, if he doesn't have that raw pace. Charles Leclerc and him, I think the teammate dynamic they've got there is really impressive.
Yeah, very, very strong pairing. Charles Leclerc on the podium multiple times at this racetrack, in contention for the victory in 2021 and 2022. Lewis Hamilton just has the record around here. Extraordinary performance. Has the most podiums, has the most wins. Jim Clark still has the most laps led at Silverstone. Lewis Hamilton passed that this weekend. The great champion of the 1960s. And that's the great thing about this race. All of motor racing history recalled around the corners, because we've been racing here since the very first Grand Prix in World Championship history, May the 13th, 1950. And ever since, Silverstone has been part of British motor racing. The alternating stopped in 1987, the year of the epic Mansell Pass at Stowe Corner. And Gabriel Bortoleto is finishing on a driver who was in the top 5 in Formula 2 here last year. It was actually the man that he beat to the title, Isaac Hadjar, who won the feature race around here. But Bortoleto coming with sky-high confidence after a very impressive Austrian Grand Prix weekend.
He's so good around Austria. I mean, his track record in Formula 3 and Formula 2, he was on the podium in Formula 3, he won in Formula 2, and then he's come in Formula 1 last time out and got some strong points, his first points in Formula 1 as well. And potentially there was maybe some more on the table. He missed out to a couple of positions where they went for one-stoppers, Alonso being one of them, his manager, who he had a good battle with, and that is the end now of FP2.
Yeah, incredibly busy session for the teams in the pit lane, and we tried to give you the trackside vantage point with DC, all the news in the pits with Lee as well. And it's Lando Norris who is going to top the session, and in the Lando stand they're cheering. He's going to be in the mix all weekend long, looking And he said something wonderful in the press conference in the build-up to this. He was saying, all my previous wins I would trade for winning the British Grand Prix.
I mean, it's a remarkable statement to make, but equally I can completely understand it, because as a British driver to win this Grand Prix, that has such weight behind it. It really is such an achievement that will put you in the history books, and people in the UK and around the world will remember for years, because that is the history that this place has, Silverstone.
So that's his aim at the start of the weekend. Charles Leclerc trying to get his first win around this circuit, and Ferrari's first win of the season. Hamilton looked good on the medium tyre, on the soft tyre as well. Lewis Hamilton will be hugely encouraged, I imagine, by the one-lap pace, because 9 times this year he's been out-qualified by Charles Leclerc. Twice he's been ahead. Once when Leclerc went for a strategic choice at the Spanish Grand Prix, and once when Leclerc made a mistake in Canada and Hamilton picked up the pieces. This is Lewis Hamilton at Silverstone. You know he's going to be somewhere towards the front. Piastri in the top 4 as well, and Max Verstappen, that second lap on the soft tyre took him to 5th place. Red Bull looking at their home race for another one of those classic Fridays into Saturdays to see if they can give the reigning world champion a chance to compete and break up the Ferrari and McLaren battle. For Mercedes to get back in the picture, they need the temperature to plummet, which is always possible at Silverstone circuit.
It definitely is. I mean, it's been 23, 24 degrees out there today. I wonder how low it needs to go for Mercedes to really be in the hunt here.
I think they probably need the air temperature below 20 and the track temperature heading down towards the low 30s.
I'm pretty sure Silverstone can arrange that.
Yeah, well, you're looking at the man who is fastest. Lando Norris is fastest, and that concludes our running for Practice Friday. Well, we're looking at highlights of the lap that took Lando Norris to the top of the timing pages. He has done the job through the heat haze. Loving that shot. He's been part of Formula 1 history for so long. And he loves that chrome livery. That's the one that he grew up watching. Like you grew up watching, Billy. That's the one that he wanted on the car. But you've got to be quick to put chrome on your car, because it's slightly heavier, that livery, isn't it? Even when it's just vinyl wrapping on the car. They're fast this year, McLaren. They can run it again.
Yeah, they've probably got the luxury right now with the advantage that they've got to be able to run something that's slightly heavier with that livery. But, I mean, this is the world of Formula 1, and this stuff actually matters. Everyone watching at home think, how could a livery actually change the weight so much? But an extra few hundred grams can make all the difference in this sport, so it's important to note that.
And when you see the gap between Ferrari teammates of 700ths, that's a perfect example.
Yeah, I think we've got to maximize quali, but the setup for the race is pretty good.
Okay.
Backing up our information in the commentary box, the Ferrari looked good on the medium tyres on the long run. Leclerc saying that they have to maximise qualifying. The dirty air, the wake from the back of these cars has been really, really tricky to follow. Qualifying, even at a racetrack where you can overtake, still going to go a long way to defining the result. As Lewis Hamilton, can't wait to hear what he says post FP2, because surely he's going to be mighty encouraged by what he's seen out there.
Yeah, I really expect him to be in fine spirits, because I think coming into this weekend he had a bit of momentum from Austria, and I think crucially he's been able to back it up with some consistency here at his home Grand Prix. I think that's been the thing that's been lacking from him with Ferrari so far. Getting up to speed has been one thing, but also just that week-to-week consistency has just not been there. But this feels like that it could be the start of that consistency he's been looking for at Ferrari.
Yeah, Ferrari still have new suspension to come as well. They're going to be conducting a filming day with it, and then they're going to be bringing it to the car, we believe, at the Belgian Grand Prix. But that is Ferrari's last update, as Lando Norris taking his time to wave to the fans.
It definitely is. I mean, it's been...
Yeah, I think we've got to maximize quali, but the setup for the race is pretty good.
Okay.
Taking it on the first lap, 0.4 of a second ahead. In the end, he finishes 0.2 of a second ahead of the Ferraris that we've discussed. Big margin to his teammate, 0.4. You wouldn't expect it to stay at that for the rest of the weekend. Verstappen needed 2 laps as well. Mercedes need cooler temperatures to contend. Lance Stroll, again, form on a Friday. Big question for him is whether he can continue it forward. And in the top 10 again, the Racing Bulls, if they start the weekend with a good balance, tends to be points contention for them for the rest of the weekend. Let's take you through the rest of the order then. Headed by Lando Norris, then it is Charles Leclerc and Lewis Hamilton. Both Ferraris needed second flying laps to the times that they did. Oscar Piastri was in fourth, and it's Max Verstappen, Kimi Antonelli, his first British Grand Prix in Formula One. Then Stroll, Russell, Hadjar, and Lawson. It's one of 3 racetracks that Liam Lawson has yet to race on in Formula One. We're ticking through them. To the second page we journey, which is headed by Alexander Albon, then his 2-time British Grand Prix winner Fernando Alonso, Formula One's most recent point scorer Gabriel Bortoleto. It's Ocon, Tsunoda, Sainz and Hulkenberg. A reminder for you, Tsunoda missed FP1 earlier on. And then it's Hulkenberg, Gasly, home favourite Oliver Behrman, and 20th for Alpine is Franco Colapinto. So my thanks to everyone who has contributed from the commentary box, from the pit lane and trackside today. We are up and running for the British Grand Prix weekend with Lando Norris, the man to beat, but Ferrari not too far away.
Thank you, Alex Jakes. Excellent work in the commentary box, and we've made our way down to the paddock alongside Mario Isola, Director of Motorsport at Pirelli. We're going to talk all things tyres. First up in our reaction here to FP2. Firstly, Mario, welcome. Thanks so much for joining us. We were just discussing the weather, weren't we? As we do as Brits and as we do in the UK, because you're probably keeping a very firm eye on the weather forecast and how much it can change here. We're in boiling sunshine now. I know you've been in a heat wave, so perhaps this is temperate, moderate for you, but we have gusts of wind, we may have rain. What are you seeing?
At the moment, the forecast is for tomorrow better than expected, so it should be 20% chance of rain for qualifying, very low. Yesterday it was 40, but maybe we have rain in the morning of Sunday around 9 o'clock, then better through the morning, and then again 40% at the start of the race. It's quite complicated. I'm checking every 10 minutes to understand what is going on.
40% chance at the start of the race. If it could wait till we've done the pre-race show, we can get nice and dry.
On the grid.
And then on the grid.
Everyone has to guess the tyre right at the end.
Yeah.
Good for us, maybe not so good for you.
No. But if we have some rain during the race, it's better for the show, so it's better for everyone.
Well, Mario, talk us through then this weekend and what to expect. We saw a brilliant strategical battle last time out, albeit with a crossover from wet to dry to winters. What are we expecting then for the race this year, with obviously one step softer in compounds?
Yeah, obviously let's talk about a dry race because it's impossible to make a prediction with the changeable weather, but we want to push the teams to plan a 2-stop strategy. At the moment with our simulations, we are very close between 1 and 2. We know that the majority of the teams decided to keep 2 sets of hard in the allocation. For the moment, only 3 teams used 1 set of hard. That's an indication they want to keep it for the race. And obviously 2-stop could be using the medium and the hard. We have a long run that is quite interesting from Hadjar today on the soft compound, 13 laps, quite good lap time and consistency. We are checking the tires now, but what I can say that compared to last year, the level of graining is much reduced, and this is helping consistency. 1 stop could be at the limit in mileage, especially on the front left, that is the most stressed tire, so obviously we discourage a 1-stop strategy.
We are up and running for the British Grand Prix weekend with Lando Norris, the man to beat, but Ferrari not too far away.
Thank you, Alex Jakes. Excellent work in the commentary box, and we've made our way down to the paddock alongside Mario Isola, Director of Motorsport at Pirelli. We're going to talk all things tyres. First up in our reaction here to FP2. Firstly, Mario, welcome. Thanks so much for joining us. We were just discussing the weather, weren't we? As we do as Brits and as we do in the UK, because you're probably keeping a very firm eye on the weather forecast and how much it can change here. We're in boiling sunshine now. I know you've been in a heat wave, so perhaps this is temperate, moderate for you, but we have gusts of wind, we may have rain. What are you seeing?
At the moment, the forecast is for tomorrow better than expected, so it should be 20% chance of rain for qualifying, very low. Yesterday it was 40, but maybe we have rain in the morning of Sunday around 9 o'clock, then better through the morning, and then again 40% at the start of the race. It's quite complicated. I'm checking every 10 minutes to understand what is going on.
40% chance at the start of the race. If it could wait till we've done the pre-race show, we can get nice and dry.
On the grid.
And then on the grid.
Everyone has to guess the tyre right at the end.
Yeah.
Good for us, maybe not so good for you.
No. But if we have some rain during the race, it's better for the show, so it's better for everyone.
Well, Mario, talk us through then this weekend and what to expect. We saw a brilliant strategical battle last time out, albeit with a crossover from wet to dry to winters. What are we expecting then for the race this year, with obviously one step softer in compounds?
Yeah, obviously let's talk about a dry race because it's impossible to make a prediction with the changeable weather, but we want to push the teams to plan a two-stop strategy at the moment. With our simulations, we are very close between 1 and 2. We know that the majority of the teams decided to keep 2 sets of hard in the allocation. For the moment, only 3 teams used 1 set of hard. That's an indication they want to keep it for the race. And obviously 2-stop could be using the medium and the hard. We have a long run that is quite interesting from Ajar today on the soft compound, 13 laps, quite good lap time and consistency. We are checking the tires now, but what I can say that compared to last year, the level of graining is much reduced, and this is helping consistency. 1 stop could be at the limit in mileage, especially on the front left, that is the most stressed tire, so obviously we discourage a 1-stop strategy.